All right, welcome everybody to conversation number 76 with the TLC. We are announcing learning groups. Yay, this is a really big deal. And our special guest, we have Ken Williams and um, your learning group panel. But before we get started, I want to thank our sponsors, Conductrix, who's been with us from the beginning, Epo and Chameleon, who are our newsletter sponsors, and Blazing Growth. Eddie, thank you for being our newest sponsor. So, Ken Williams. Everybody knows Ken Williams from the Barbie movie. He's, enough for anyone. He's also a amazing Google Analytics engineer, and well, he does everything related to all analytics engineering. And he's a super smart guy and friendly on top of everything. And he's really fun to tease about, well, being Knuff. And then we have Jill Quick, who I had the pleasure of meeting at Super Week. We had amazing conversations. And one of the amazing conversations we had was about the fact that she does this teaching thing for a living at the coloring department. And she teaches GA4 and amongst other things. And we both have kind of the same kid. So we bonded over that. And the fact that we've been teaching our whole lives. And she is going to join us on this learning and teaching journey. And then who doesn't know and love Doug Hall? Doug is a analytics director now at Duga Digital. He's got a great cat butt clock. Just like lean up so we can see your amazing cat butt clock. Oh, there it is. Oh, it's my favorite part of his decor. And he is another amazing individual and people leader as well as analytics guru. And he brings people together. He's a connector and wonderful person. He's the loudest, largest, tallest, most wonderful person that you have an opportunity to meet. And we love him. So thank you all for being here. We also have one more person. Where's Brian? Brian, where are you? Come on, man. There's Brian.
I'm here.
Brian is our other, he's not pictured here because we didn't get a picture in time to add him. But Brian is also part of our panel today. He's one of the teachers that's going to be teaching with Ken. So thank you all for being here. Brian is another analytics engineer with tons and tons and tons of experience in all the analytics engineering space. And he's going to be teaching one of the classes with Ken. So I'm going to pass the screen share over to Ken, and we're going to get started explaining just what these analytics learning groups are. Well, not analytics, but learning groups are all about.
You're muted, Ken.
Thank you. I was asking if you're seeing my screen. I was asking the wrong question. Thank you, Eddie. All right. But you guys are able to see my screen, right? Anybody?
Yes.
Thank you. So first of all, I want to share this concept that we've been working on for, I think, Kelly, you and I started talking about this about a year ago, maybe a little more than that now, for a learning group. So the idea is that we want to put together some cohort-based courses. So these are paid courses from a live instructor, um, as opposed to a course where, you're watching it on demand or you're with a large group of students, because the whole idea is to make them communal. So you have individuals that you are grouped with who share your ideally time zone, although we'll do the best we can on that. And then also your self-described experience level on whatever the course is teaching. So we'll put people into groups, and what we want to do is give you the chance to go through some material in a way where you've got an instructor that's available to you. You can share your screen, you can ask questions. You've also got a group of people who are learning at the same time. So it's a little bit of a chance to learn, also a chance to build some of your professional network, meet some other people. And also, when the course is over, we'll invite everyone to two different Slack groups. Well, actually, when the course begins. So one of these is a channel, it's a private channel just for your cohort. So as you're going through the course, you can chat with each other. If you missed something, the instructor will be also in that channel. You can reach out to them that way. And then you'll also be added to another private channel for everyone who's taken the course. So we're just launching these. We'll talk through them today. We've got 4 courses planned. And ideally, if they go well, then we'll re-offer the same courses down the road. So as other individuals go through the same content, you'll have an ever-growing community in Slack of people who have already been through a particular topic. So that gives you another place where you can go chat with that group. Hopefully, it'll be a great resource for kind of ongoing digging into the topic that your course is about. So that's the concept behind learning groups. We want to make sure that they're more personal and kind of fit to the community style of TLC than traditional learning. We've got, oh, my screen is not forwarding. There we go. We've got a couple of things. I actually just explained this slide. So we've got Cohort, the lab instructor. Yeah. So we've got a couple of things live right now on TLC website. So what we're going to walk through today is also available there. You go to testandlearn.community/learning groups, and you'll see we've got a page for each upcoming course. Kelly's page isn't live yet, but she's going to give you a little overview of a course she's got coming up. So that's kind of the main resource. And that's also the place, I'll come back to at the end, where you would go to sign up for a course if you'd like to participate. So what we're going to do just to get started is give a super quick 5-minute overview of the 4 first courses that we've got planned. So we want everybody to kind of get a sense for what kinds of content we're planning to put out there, figure out if there's any interest. And then what we're going to do after that is the very first course is the one that Brian and I will be leading, and it starts in 3 weeks. So we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into that topic, just so you've got some context for what it is, who it might be useful for. I would love it if it's a perfect fit for everyone on this call, but it may not be. But if you know other people who might benefit from it, it's great for we'd love that as well. So we want to give you all kind of a pretty thorough idea of what it's all about and who it's for. So I think I've got these in order. So I'm going to start. I'm actually going to do mine shorter than 5 minutes because you're going to see a lot more detail in a moment. But Brian and I are going to start the first course June 3rd, or that week of June 3rd. And the topic is going to be prepping Google Analytics data for reporting in BigQuery. So as you can imagine, this is intended for people who are familiar with Google Analytics, they've been in it, but they're not necessarily confident with BigQuery. Maybe they don't understand all the benefits, all the use cases, and they're probably not thinking about things like orchestration. So what this course is, Brian and I at a previous employer, we're doing a lot of this type of work for our clients. Since we have both left and started working in for separate employers or for ourselves, we've reconnected and we've built out a standard way for rolling out Google Analytics reporting in BigQuery. This course is intended to walk you through what we are using currently with our clients and how we set it up and how we customize it. So that's the gist of it. Again, I'm going to stop it there because I'm going to tell a lot more detail about it in a minute. But that one is starting June 3rd. About a month after that, Jill is going to start her course. on July 2nd. So Jill, I'll pass it over to you to give your
Hello.
intro.
Thank you. So my course is a 3-week intensive where we're going to be focusing on the fundamentals of GA4. So for those of you that are not quite ready for the BigQuery stuff that Ken's doing, it's really designed for people that are maybe feeling a bit uncertain about GA4, or you're looking to refine your data collection strategies. You want to build your confidence and knowledge in terms of how the data model works, how to access the reports, so that you can actually do quite a lot of cool stuff with it. So the idea is to boil down everything that I've learned from all of the training that I've been doing my whole career. And the last 4 years, all I've been doing is GA reviews and audits. So we're going to go through the processes and the templates that I use for my clients. And I've worked with startups and big brands and different industries. So I'm pretty confident that from the cohort, there'll be somebody with an industry that I've got some insights for. So really excited to be part of the learning journey on this one.
Thank you, Jill. After Jill's course, we're going to start the next one with Mr. Doug Hall himself in August, data enrichment. Doug, you want to jump into that one?
Yeah, my go. Okay, cool. So you may already be using server-side data collection, or you may want to use server-side data collection, but what's it for? What are the cool things you can do with it? What are the business benefits? What are the tactical and strategic benefits of going server-side? Well, data enrichment is one of those big wins that you're going to get. What is it? We're going to cover off why data enrichment fits into your Google Marketing Platform architecture, your ecosystem, how to do it. We're not going to be nerding out. We're not going to be doing a GCP course. We're not going to be doing a server-side Google Tag Manager course. We're going to be exercising scenarios, use cases, how to use the data, where to use the data, where it's going to be valuable. But we will be doing some practical examples, and we're going to walk it through step by step. I've had a really fun afternoon looking at Google API documentation today so that you don't have to. It's hard. So what I want to do is to pitch this at a level where the ideal course delegate, the ideal candidate is going to be someone who really gets data and wants to take that step further, but is GCP a little bit too hard? Is it a bit scary? Is server-side tag manager not understood well enough? We're going to simplify it. We're going to boil it down. We're going to make it very, very accessible. So we're going to be able to discuss it in human terms. We don't have to talk boardroom and we don't have to talk nerd. This is going to be plain English, and you're going to get a lot out of this. Practical examples. You're not going to become GCP certified at the end of this, but you will have a vocabulary and an understanding and a drive to work with data engineers, data scientists to make this data enrichment thing part of your ecosystem and to get business value from it. How does that sound? Who's in? Who? Raise your hand. I'm open. August. Why August? I was going to be first. I've got to be absolutely transparent here. It's now the second month at Duga Digital. Kelly, you got the pronunciation just right. Duga Digital. Didn't know Duga is an old Norse word that means making things and doing good things. So that's what we do. Anyway, tangent over. Second month in, my boss has had his first baby. So he's on paternity leave, which means, yay, round of applause, way to go, Dan, woo. But I'm busy. And there's a lot of real life business that needs to be done. So I've moved it to August, but it is going to happen. It will happen. So I'd love to see everybody come join and let's enrich some data. Ken, thanks. With that, back to Ken.
Fabulous. And then, of course, last but not least, Kelly's course is planned to start in September. Kelly, what are you going to be talking about?
I mean, what else? Experimentation. We're going to be unlocking right practice with data-driven decision making. And the main thing we're going to be focusing on in something a little different than I've taught in the past. We're going to be talking about some of the data dangers that can happen in experimentation. So in the past, I've done a lot of the planning side and that's scope. But this time we're going to talk about You know, when folks are looking at the analysis and the sample size, all of the experimentation components that can go wrong. So various different data dangers. And of course, we're also going to do the regular planning stuff as well. So it's a brand new course that I've never taught before. And they get the benefits of the cohort piece as well, which never taught in this format, and really excited to have the opportunity to use the TLC format and be able to have everybody learn together. So really looking forward to that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so like I mentioned, I'm going to do a bit of a deep dive into the course that Brian and I are leading. But actually, before I do that, this is a good place to do a quick pause and see if anybody has any questions about TLC learning groups as a whole. You know, kind of how there are any questions about the content, but also particularly if anyone is concerned about the, you know, how they roll out and operations of it, because we didn't go too deep into that. Any questions we can answer? Okay, that's all the time you get. So, all right, so I'm going to jump into mine. Obviously, throw questions into.
Wait, we had a question. Time
Oh,
commitment per week, James is asking.
okay, great question. This is going to be dependent on the course. So, the course that I'm leading is going to be 2 1-hour sessions per week, and we've outlined 10 sessions. So it's going to take 5 weeks to get through all the material. The way that we are planning to host mine, which this also will evolve a little bit by instructor, is when people are signing up, we will, you know, look at your time zones and how you rate your expertise. We'll try and group people who are similar into their cohorts. And then we will actually, within that cohort, find a day of the week or time of day that works best. So, you know, if someone's in Europe versus California, we'll try and have you in a cohort so that you don't have to join, nobody's to join early in the morning or late at night. So the actual time and date is a little bit flexible. That's the way that I'm doing my course. If the other instructors, you know, may not have as much flexibility. So we're going to kind of feel this out a little bit as we go through it. But does everybody real quick want to just say, you know, what you're thinking of in terms of the amount of hours per week so we can get a sense for how much different everybody's course is? Kelly, you want to go?
Oh, I'm off mute. I was like, oh yeah. Mine is going to be pretty similar. It will be the first week, it's one class in the first week, it's two classes in the second week, third week, one class, fourth and fifth week, two classes. So
Are those an hour long each? Is that how you do?
each one an hour. Yeah. And so it depends on the week. And I'm also going to do the thing where, depending on your time zone, will depend on the time. Teresa just added an extra question about, is there a list of recommended prerequisite knowledge or tool access by class? I think that's probably a little bit more relevant for the Google Analytics classes, or at least I will say there isn't for mine. If you all want to take that.
Yeah, Jill. Sorry.
So I have set mine as 3 2-hour classes, and I put the time zones down mainly to work with childcare. But again, we can see what the response is to see if we can wiggle things around with additional wraparound care. I would say for the GA4 class that I'm doing, I'm assuming that you've used analytics. So you've either loved Universal, I'm quite happy with Universal, and you have been accessing GA4, you just don't really know what to do with it, or if you need to do more with it, because the documentation and the training from Google side hasn't been that great. And some of it is quite nonsensical and doesn't make any sense. So it's designed to shortcut that space for you. What I will say with it being a smaller group, because we're in our own little corner, if we're all happy, then I can have access to other people's analytics so that I can give you direct feedback to what you're doing. So I would be assuming that you have access to a Google Analytics account. If you don't, you can still access the Google demo account, which is the merchandise store. So you can still have a sandbox account to play around with. So they would be my kind of prerequisites.
So I was going to go with ideally a 2 hour slot, one each week. But depending on pace, I could move that out to 3 because it is a lot. There is a fair amount going in there. But aim for 2, and that should be quite comfortable. Prerequisite: you will need to have a GCP project set up. That's not going to cost you anything for the amount of work that we're doing. It's going to fly under the free threshold, so that's not a big deal. Best to set it up yourself. We are going to be spinning up a server side tag manager. We are going to be spinning up some BigQuery, some what else are we doing? Some cloud functions, some PubSub, some cloud storage, did I mention that already? And some Firestore. So we're going to be going through some fundamental GCP services, all of which are going to be so light, it ain't going to cost you a cent, a penny, a euro, or whatever. But that's pretty much all you need.
Yeah, and I'll answer the question for for my course before I jump into the details on it. On the event page, I do have 2 prerequisites listed. One is, I've got it pulled up here, Google Analytics 4 property that's collecting data. And the second is the Google Cloud Platform project with a billing account. However, our course, it's unlikely that you will exceed the free tier, but it is possible dependent on how much data that you're bringing in and how much practice you do between classes. So for those who are concerned about it, I'm also planning to offer access to the data set that I'll be using to teach the course. So others can run queries against that. So we can sort of be flexible with the prerequisites for my class. Okay, so I'm gonna jump right in. So I hope that this is not too long. As I said at the beginning, I put a lot of slides together because I have a lot of things to say, but I'm planning to not actually spend more time than we have here and hopefully let you guys go a little early. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send the slides out after or make them available in Slack. So if there's something that you think I went over kind of quickly, you'll have access to that. And obviously you can also message me in Slack. Happy to jump in. So put that caveat out there. But first things first, I do just want to clarify when we're talking about BigQuery and Google Analytics, there's a little bit of level setting to be done. BigQuery has actually been available as an integration with Google Analytics since I think 2012, I think if I remember correctly. And the idea is that, as you can see on this very simple flow chart, data flows directly to Google Analytics, just like it normally does. Doug's classes will have a slightly different flow chart, but what we're talking about here is once that data is in Google Analytics, it can be passed into a Google Cloud Platform product called BigQuery. So BigQuery is just a part of Google Cloud. There is then the ability to do a lot of things with that data in Google Cloud and then outside of it in a BI tool. So really what we're going to be focusing on in this class is what you can do when you plug BigQuery into your normal workflow. A lot of people who I work with, my clients, are using a very similar flow chart, but they're having Looker or some other BI tool plug right into Google Analytics. And so we're going to talk about why you might want to modify that and then how to do that. So who is this class for? I mean, there are, like Jill said, some people who are working to understand Google Analytics, and that means this course is probably not for you. We do assume that you have some fundamental knowledge of the data structure. So what events are, what parameters are, and user properties. You don't, though, have to be an expert in SQL. All you need to do is be able to copy and paste and follow along. You don't have to be a data engineer or super familiar with anything related to data engineering. We intend to walk you through all those details. So there are going to be a lot of people in the middle of this spectrum who they understand GA, but they're not using BigQuery yet. Maybe because it's intimidating. You feel like you don't have the skills. Maybe you don't know what it would cost. So we're trying to make this course for everybody in that middle ground. If you're already orchestrating data pipelines, you're familiar with tools like dbt and Dataform, then this course is probably going to be just repeat for you. And so, you're on that far end of the spectrum. We're trying to target those individuals who are in the middle there. So first off, why would you be interested in this? So I put on LinkedIn about a month ago or so a list of 8 reasons why I find it valuable for my clients to use the BigQuery integration. So I got a lot of feedback on that. Some people had suggested other benefits that I had not thought of. So I threw those in here. So imagine that you are in a situation where you rolled out Google Analytics on the website and there was a mistake. From my own experience, maybe your client, this wasn't your fault, accidentally set the user ID to the word anonymous when somebody wasn't logged in. And it caused your bounce rate to go crazy and the count of users to look crazy. In the reporting interface in Google Analytics, you're out of luck. You can't change historic data. But if you're set up to use BigQuery, you can go through and you can recalculate metrics that were captured incorrectly. And it can really be a lifesaver. You can't correct every historical problem, but there are a lot you can. So one of the things we're going to do in this course is walk through those use cases and how to do that. We're going to talk about scope. So if you try and pull a metric that describes a user, like the metric users, next to a dimension that describes a page or a single event. So you want to see how many users view a page. Sometimes, not all the time, sometimes you get really weird results in Google Analytics. And so we're going to talk about what the different scopes are. In Google Analytics data, there are 4 of them. And how to set up BigQuery in a way that you can combine metrics and dimensions without having to worry about that anymore. The third thing is we're going to show you how to correct a bunch of bugs in the GA4 user interface. A great example is, what is a not set new or established user? A lot of weird things that we know about that you can just eliminate questions from your stakeholders by using BigQuery. We're going to talk about joining data with other sources. So we actually have one session that's specific to Google Ads because I think that's going to be relevant to a lot of people. How do you integrate Google Analytics data with Google Ads so that when you're reporting out of BigQuery, you can have the same benefits you have in the user interface, such as I used auto tagging with a gclid, and now I need to know what the campaign name was in Google Ads. We'll show you how to join that data together. We've got a lot of benefits around building dashboards. So if you're using Looker Studio a lot, you might be very familiar with token quotas. You also have issues with hyperlog, potentially thresholding sampling. And the benefit of BigQuery is that Google isn't trying to control cost. So some of these things are applied in Google Analytics because of privacy, but really most of what's going on here is it could be very expensive for them to run queries if they didn't put controls on them. When your data is in BigQuery, those controls are removed because you're paying for BigQuery. BigQuery is super duper cheap, so we're going to start off by explaining how to estimate the cost to you. But again, another benefit of BigQuery is removing all of those frustrating reporting problems. We're going to show you how to create segments and make those segments available in a BI tool or like Looker Studio, which is a frustrating problem with using Looker Studio with GA4. That wasn't an issue in Universal Analytics. You can fix that with BigQuery. Then we're going to talk about CDPs. If you happen to be using a CDP, I think this is going to be really interesting to you. If you're not using a CDP, this particular course gets more interesting in session 10. So I'm going to come back to that. But once you've got all of these things set up, we're going to also talk about all the advanced analysis that you can do. So how can you do things like forecasting, scoring users for their probability to churn or probability to convert against something in the future? You'll have laid the foundation to do a ton of things that were not possible before. And actually, this advanced analysis piece is why I started going really deep into this, because I had laid out a series of like 15 solutions I wanted to do for clients. And all of them required this raw data formatted in a way where it's very usable. So this course is about a template that works for everybody, how to customize it. And once you've got that in place, sort of showing you, okay, here are all the things that you can do with the data now that you've got this foundation set up. So those are the 8 benefits. Brian and I are teaching the course. Excellent to meet everyone who I haven't had the opportunity to meet. I'm the founder and principal consultant at Dive Team, which is a Google Cloud partner, but we really focus on helping marketers make decisions with data and what we call master the marketing data stack. So we focus in marketing strategy, marketing analytics, data engineering, data science. Those are all my kind of expertise. Brian is a little bit more of a full stack developer. So Brian and I are both Google Cloud certified professional data engineers. We've both worked with Google Cloud a ton, BigQuery a ton, Google Analytics data. It's the last 10 years or so, we've been doing it almost daily. But the difference is, if you have a question about how can I solve a marketing problem, I want to acquire new customers, or I want to improve customer loyalty, that's the area where I really focus. If you have a question about how do I set up a local environment, or continue CI/CD, real heavy developer questions, Brian is your guy. So the two of us combined, I think, will be able to help guide everyone through what we're trying to cover here. Okay, so there's 2 things we want you to take away at the end of our course. One is you will have a working data model in BigQuery. So we are actually going to walk everyone through the process of how do you do different things one at a time. So I'm going to show you what those are in the next slide. So, how do I, for example, create an attribution model? How do I do identity stitching? So we're going to walk through this one at a time. And at the end, we're going to roll out a data model for everyone, help you get it live. And that data model is ready to be used on your data. Second thing that we're going to do is hand off a bunch of Looker Studio dashboards. So these can all be copied. They understand what your data is going to look like. You can plug them in and start using that data model right away. So that's great for those individuals who aren't too comfortable with SQL. You'll still have a way at the end of this course to benefit from having that data there without needing to write any SQL, because we've shown you how to create visuals on it. Okay. Last thing I've got on my list here is the course structure. Like I mentioned, this is 10 one-hour sessions. There is a little bit of, Brian and I have to nail down a little bit of the timing around June 17th. So FYI, I am going to the beach that week. Brian might lead those courses, or we might decide to do them after. I don't want to put Brian on the spot at the moment, but we're going to walk through these 2 a week for 10 weeks. It might take us 6 weeks to get through it all if we take that week off. So that's the caveat I'm working on. First thing we're going to do, though, is start at the beginning. A little bit of level setting. This is going to be a little bit of a repeat of some of the stuff we're talking about right now, but it's going to go quite a bit deeper. So, what is the analytics export? How raw is it? What does it cost? What are some pros and cons? And we're going to get really into a concept of unnesting. The data in GA4 is what's called denormalized, highly denormalized. So unnesting is a way that you make it friendlier to work with. So that's what we're going to cover in course 1. Then we're going to get into creating this foundational flat events table. We have a particular methodology that we like to share that we're going to show you, which starts with this flat events table. We're going to talk a lot about scope, like I mentioned a moment ago, how to handle things like event parameters, etc. Once you've got that in place, the next thing we talk about is identity. So this is going to be most relevant to people who have websites and apps that users authenticate into. So how do you do things like determine that a person who visited 4 times before they signed in were the same person? And that's important because we need to get that in place before we do session 5, not number 4, which has to do with stitching your history. We're also going to talk a little bit about pathing analysis. Pathing analysis is often not useful, but I do really miss in Universal Analytics the navigation summary report. So we're going to show you how to recreate that using and how to visualize the data in a way that's helpful for understanding how users flow through a website. Then we get in attribution modeling. So the first real issue that people bump into with BigQuery is, when I look at the number of organic search sessions in BigQuery and I compare that to Google Analytics, the numbers are way off. We're going to explain why. We'll show you how to recreate the model that Google uses. And then we'll jump into blending your data with Google Ads. So setting up the integration. The next thing we're going to talk about segments. You've got all your data into a table that's easy to use. You've already stitched identities. You've put together your attribution. Now you're ready to create segments and make them available for your BI tool. So that's what we're going to walk through here. Then we get into e-commerce. E-commerce is a little bit complex because items are a list. So there's a special way to handle e-commerce to make sure that you're able to report the way that you want to and in a way that's flexible. And that is all of the key concepts. The first 8 weeks are like very focused. Here's how you solve this problem. We will give you SQL. You can copy and paste it. You can look at results. Week 9 is when we bring it all together. So we're going to introduce Dataform. We're going to show how Dataform is useful for orchestrating queries so that they execute in the right order and refresh daily as your new data comes in. So week 9 is very critical because that's really the one where we are kind of making everything actual, like actionable. Your data is useful. Week 10 is all of the things you can go from here. So we'll give you the Looker Studio dashboards. We'll talk through what is possible in terms of user data. I mentioned earlier CDPs. We're going to be a part of what we're going to talk about. So we will definitely jump here into if you've purchased a CDP or you're interested in, a composable CDP, how that sits really nicely on top of the data that we've structured for you. So we're gonna make all of that. This last session is not going to be as prescriptive. It's not going to be so much copying and pasting. It's going to be a list of, now that you're here, think about what's important to your business, and we'll help you understand what's possible and all the directions that you could take it. So I covered a lot of slides in about 15 minutes. That is the course. I hope that this is exciting to somebody out there. It's okay if it's not to everybody. But we've put a ton of time and effort into this, and I think that you'll find it valuable if you join us. So how to sign up? The website, obviously, there's an event page. What we're doing for signups is a little bit unique. The plan is to say, if you'd like to reserve a spot, we'll take a $10 payment. Each of the courses that we've described today have a payment link. So you can pull them up, you can click on that, pay the $10. What that does is it lets us know how many people are interested. And we also ask you in that link what your time zone is and your expertise level. So when it's about a week before the courses launch, we will then decide what the cohorts are. We'll email everybody. We'll work out a best date and time. If that works for you and you're ready to go, then we'll send the invoice for the remaining costs. So this is a $700 course. So the final invoice would be for $690. So you'll only be invoiced for that after you're in a cohort and it's scheduled. So that way, you understand your availability and if it works with the class and all that. And then once your payment is complete, you're invited to Slack. We'll start sending all the invites out and we'll kick off the week of June 3rd. So that is a lot of info. Definitely throw some questions in the Slack if you have any, but that is all the slides that I had to cover here. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
So we can see faces.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions about learning cohorts, learning groups, learning with the TLC? Are y'all excited? You think it's a good idea? I saw Juliana's.
Yes, I do. I am excited, and yes, I think it's a good idea. But that's just my opinion.
Well, and like I said at the beginning, I hope that, even if, these courses aren't a good fit for you, help us spread the word, give us feedback. This is our first time. We've been putting a lot of thought into what's the kind of content we think would resonate with people and how can we structure this? So any feedback on that is really, really critical. So please let us know. And then if you have other people that you think might be a good fit, please share the event pages because we're just now starting today, trying to get the word out about this. So it's all brand new.
Yes.
Ken, will your course include music? Because I could see guitars and
you'll have to sign up to find out, Doug. So
fair cop, you got me. All right, yeah, I'll sign up then. Yeah.
Jill, will your course include coloring?
All of my slides are very cartoony, and I like analogies and stories to explain things. So yeah, I got some artwork of me as a Barbie in a box, an analytics Barbie, BigQuery not included. I'm looking forward to using those images.
All right. I think everybody, yes.
On that question though, I can, as you know, pretty much legit guarantee this course will not just include the cat butt clock, but may actually include an appearance from Amelie the cat as well, the real cat. So
absolutely. Yeah, my cat will definitely show up. All of my cats, they like to interrupt all of my calls. This is a very true thing.
How many do you have?
I have 2 at my house, plus 1 at my son's house who he took with him. Before we wrap things up, I want to remind everybody about our next TLC call, which is next week, I think. Yes, next week. Shiva's going to be here talking about how hypotheses are overrated and what you're missing in your process. And then May 23rd, we have the Experimentation Culture Awards, which is incredibly exciting and inspirational. So everybody should register for your free live stream tickets. Both of those are on the TLC website. So register for both of those, as well as you can learn about the learning groups on the TLC website as well, and Ken just shared the slide deck. So all of that is on the TLC website. And the slides that we just shared are also on the TLC calls Slack. So thank you all. I hope you're as excited about TLC learning groups as we are for starting them, and hope to see you all in one of our cohorts soon. Thanks. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.